Hi, this is Savish from the channel Al-Muqaddimah, and today I'm going to show you the family tree of the Prophet Muhammad. I'll be using Matt's Asian royal family tree chart, which can be purchased as a poster from his website usefulcharts.com. This video is actually the first in a two-part collaboration between Useful Charts and Al-Muqaddimah. In this video, I'll be explaining the family tree of the Prophet himself and his connection to his immediate successors. In part 2, which can be found on my channel, I'll be tracing the family tree of the Umayyad and Abbasid dynasties, which were the two main caliphates during the early Islamic period. Both of these dynasties are shown on this chart in green. So when you're finished with this video, be sure to click the link on the end screen or in the description to watch part 2. The Prophet Muhammad was born in Mecca around the year 570 CE. We don't know his exact birth year, but it is generally agreed that he died in the year 632 CE around the age of 60. You'll note that this chart does not show a picture of him, but instead shows his name artistically drawn using calligraphy. This is because Muslims consider it inappropriate to depict the Prophet in a visual way. This sometimes applies to all sentient beings as well, which is why Islamic art tends to be more decorative than figurative. Muhammad belonged to a clan known as the Banu Hashim, which in turn was part of an Arab tribe known as the Quraysh. This chart starts with Muhammad's great-great-grandfather Abdul Manaf, but if we were to go back another 7 generations, we would find that he descends from a man named Fihr ibn Malik, who was the progenitor of the Quraysh tribe. If we were to go back further, we would see that the Quraysh traditionally descend from a man named Adnan. The Adnanites were not original Arabs, but were rather Arabized in the 6th century BCE, when the Neo-Babylonians destroyed their former kingdom, pushing them south into the Arabian Peninsula. The Adnanite Arabs are sometimes distinguished from the more southern Qahtanite Arabs, who are considered to be the purer Arabs. According to tradition, the Adnanite Arabs were descendants of Ishmael, the firstborn son of Abraham, whereas the Jews were descendants of Isaac, Abraham's second-born. This is why both Judaism and Islam, as well as Christianity, are considered Abrahamic religions. Ishmael's mother was an Egyptian named Hajar, whereas Isaac's mother was Sarah. Sarah, like Abraham, was originally from Mesopotamia. But like I say, these links are based on tradition, not on historical records. Okay, let's get back to the Prophet himself. I should point out that most mainstream historians, including secular ones, do consider the Prophet Muhammad to be a historical figure. Now, as to whether or not the angel Gabriel dictated the words of the Quran to him, that is something that is solely based on faith and on religious tradition. According to Islam, that started to happen in the year 609 CE, when Muhammad was praying alone in a cave near Mecca, and it continued for the rest of his life. But in this video, we are mostly concerned with his family tree, so let's return to that. Muhammad's first wife was named Khadija. He was married to her and only her for about 25 years. Prior to marrying Muhammad, she was actually a wealthy merchant in her own right. Together, they had 3 sons and 4 daughters. All 3 sons died at a young age, but the 4 daughters lived to adulthood. 2 of them would later marry one of the early Umayyad caliphs, and another, named Fatima, would marry Ali, one of Muhammad's closest companions. According to Shia Muslims, only Fatima was the biological daughter of Muhammad and Khadija. According to that tradition, the other daughters were actually the children of Khadija's sister and were adopted. But what every Muslim tradition does agree on is that only Fatima has descendants that can be traced to today. Together with Ali, she had 2 main sons, Hassan and Hussein. Muslims today who claim descent from the Prophet are known as the Sayyids. Jordanian royal house of Hashim claims to be descendants from the Prophet through Hassan. According to Shia Muslims, the spiritual successors of Muhammad are known as the Imams, and in particular, among 12 Shias, there are 12 of them who are revered. Ali is the first, followed by Hassan and Hussein. The remaining 9 are all descendants of Hussein. At this point in the tree, there is some disagreement. Twelvers consider Musa al-Qadim to be the 7th Imam, but Ismailis consider Ismail to be the 7th. The Fatimid caliphs who ruled Egypt from 900 to 1200 were descendants from this branch, as are the Aga Khans, the modern-day Imams of the Nizari branch of Shia Islam. But Shias are actually the smaller of the 2 main branches of Islam. the larger branch being the Sunnis. According to Sunni Muslims, Muhammad was succeeded by the Rashidun caliphs, the first two of which were his close companions, Abu Bakr and Umar I. These two were also his fathers-in-law as he married their daughters after the death of Khadija. Unlike the founders of other religions, Muhammad was both a spiritual and political leader. By the end of his life, he had basically conquered the entire Arabian Peninsula. When he died and Abu Bakr was elected as political successor, the Muslim armies went on to solidify their position in Arabia, and Abu Bakr put down various revolts against his rule. According to Sunnis, Abu Bakr also oversaw the initial codification of the Quran. Previous to this, the Quran had been passed on primarily by means of oral memorization, but Abu Bakr commissioned the first complete written version. However, Abu Bakr only lived for 2 years after the death of Muhammad. Therefore, when he died, Umar took charge, and under Umar, the Muslim conquests continued with great intensity. North of Arabia was the Byzantine Empire and the Sassanid Empire. These two empires had grown weak after decades of fighting each other, and therefore Umar was easily able to capture Egypt, Palestine, and Syria from the Byzantines and completely replace the Sassanids as the rulers of Persia. When Umar died by assassination, a committee of 6 was formed to choose the next caliph. The person chosen was Uthman, who I mentioned earlier as a son-in-law of the Prophet. He was also Muhammad's third cousin once removed. You can see here that both the Umayyads and the Banu Hashim descend from the same ancestor. During the rule of Uthman, the copy of the Quran made by Abu Bakr was used to create a new standardized copy upon which all further copies of the Quran have been based. But Uthman ended up being an unpopular ruler, mostly because he was overly favorable to the members of his own clan, putting them in several important positions of power. So eventually, Uthman was assassinated and the first fitna began. Fitna meaning strife or civil war. At this point, Ali became the 4th Rashidun Caliph. But Muawiyah I, a member of the Umayyad dynasty, fought against him, along with Aisha, who had been one of Muhammad's wives. She was the one he supposedly married at a very young age, something that has been a source of controversy and debate. Ali eventually was assassinated, and his heir, Hassan, reached a deal with the Umayyads to recognize Muawiyah as Caliph. This led to the birth of the Umayyad Caliphate, in which the title of Caliph stayed within the Umayyad family for the next 90 years. Then in 750, after another civil war, the title of Caliph passed to a new family, the Abbasids, who were descendants of Muhammad's uncle Al-Abbas, and hence members of the Banu Hashim clan. Under the Abbasids, Islam experienced a golden age. So that was a look at the family tree of Prophet Muhammad. If you want to learn more about the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates, please follow the link in the description or on the screen right now to go directly to part 2. Thank you for watching.